Hello, folks, my eager beavers that are here early for the pre-taping of the show. Just getting my final stages of everything set up here so that we can go live on my website and everywhere. John Kaiser and I have a excellent collaboration that I'm so stoked about, which is the zombie search and rescue mission. It's it's not just exciting that I think we are going to find some really good stocks in the zombie search, but it gives us a chance to look into John's tools, features that are available to his subscribers, and look into using those tools in a way that John and I, who are two seasoned professionals at this, use his tools and the features on his website while in the show. And that's why you're seeing me in screen share right now as I'm setting up the final stages of the website going live here. So I'm just in my last few seconds. We can get started with this exciting show. But yeah, as I was saying, what I really like about this this program that we've done is using the tools to get inside the what's available to subscribe or to members of Kaiser Research Online. So yes, everything is set up, and I'm just going to get up to the right page here. Sorry. And we are ready to go. So on that note, hello, everybody. It's Alan Barry Laboucan here. I'm the founder of the Alan Barry Report, and with me is John Kaiser. We're here for the zombie search and rescue mission number 4. It's our hunt for junior mining stock or zombie stocks, and our search continues. I forgot to put in the message today, but I'm going to put a link in there because, as you can see on the right side of my page, I have the ceo.ca website up there. I'm often on there doing chat live, so you can talk to me about the zombie shows and picks and whatnot. So I want to invite you there. John, I saw you're back in the seat. Are you excited about the zombie search and rescue mission number 4?
Always, always.
Good to hear. I'm going to quickly do my my sponsor messages, John. Then we'll get rolling. So, on that note, I have an exciting new sponsor to announce today. That is Nevada Exploration. Their stock symbol is NGE on the Venture Exchange. They're gold focused in Nevada. They use a unique gold exploration method to unlock Nevada's underexplored regions. These underexplored regions have likely as much potential as where all the mines have been found. John was instrumental in me learning about this company, and so later on we're going to have a little chat about Nevada Exploration. You want to do some homework, you visit their website at nevadaexploration.com. Just like it sounds, do your homework. Another company sponsor is Premier Gold Mines, PG on the Toronto Exchange. They're a gold-focused company. They have a strong portfolio of projects from exploration to mining in Ontario and Nevada. Partners like Goldcorp, Barrick, Centerra, exploration through to production. Visit their website at premiergoldmines.com. The Sirius Resources is another sponsor. They're a gold-focused company drilling high-grade gold at their Chichu project in Quebec. It's located next door to Goldcorp's Eleanor Gold Mine. You can visit their website at sirios.com. That's SIRIOS.com. West Red Lake Gold Mines is another sponsor. They are gold focused. They're drilling a high grade gold target called the Hinge Zone in Red Lake. Their partner is Goldcorp. Goldcorp owns 40%. West Red Lake has 60%. Visit their website at westredlakegold.com. Their stock symbol is RLG on the CSE. The final sponsor is Wolfden Resources. They're base metal focused with a discovery of high-grade nickel, copper, and cobalt near Snow Lake, Manitoba. Visit them at wolfdenresources.com. Their symbol is WLF.V. So John, now that I got my sponsor messages out of the way there, let's talk about my new sponsor. There's a lot to be said about this company for various different reasons, John. What really attracted me the most to them is you and I have been around the diamond scene for a long time, and I think that predisposes us to be interested in unique scientific methods to take looks at areas that are highly prospective, such as what Nevada Exploration has. We look at, in a moment, I'm going to bring up, while you're talking, John, I'm going to bring up their website, and they have a really great map there that shows where all the known mines in Nevada are, and you can easily see that they're all up in the mountains or the flanks of the mountains, and it's the same kind of rock that's undercover, yet what has been challenging is trying to figure out how to see through that cover to try to make new discoveries. And that's sort of a synopsis of some of the things that I look for in Nevada Exploration, John, and why I invited them. What's your take on my read?
Well, you brought up the diamond exploration as something that reminded you a lot of the Nevada exploration strategy. And of course, diamond exploration is done by indicator mineral sampling over very large regions. You know, you start with a grid and you plot up the results. You're looking for kimberlite indicators, and then you're looking for diamond potential indicator minerals within that batch of kimberlites, and you track your way back and you finally home in on a cluster, and then you start focusing in that area with geophysics and so on. That is, in a sense, what Nevada Exploration is doing. They're looking for blind deposits, similar to the kimberlites in the Arctic, where they're buried under lakes and swamp and so on, because they've been preferentially gouged out there. Up there, at least, they're not sticking out of the ground. And in Nevada, we've had half of the northern part, or almost half of all of Nevada, dropped down through the stretching 15 million years ago, which happened well after the Carlin-type gold deposits were laid down between 45 and 25 million years ago. And much of the effort in the past 40 years, since sort of the late 70s, early 80s, where they found 300 million ounces in this part of Nevada, have been focused on projecting mineralization and structures that they found in the uplifted ranges and tracking them down under the gravel, and basically using grid drilling to find these ounces. And the question becomes, if there wasn't something in the hills to guide you, something accidentally popped up and exposed, how would you know to start grid drilling in the flanks of that area to start looking for a gold deposit? And what these guys came up with was a geochemical method where they know that groundwater all flows down from the ranges, goes through the gravels, goes along the bedrock, and it dissolves the Carlin-type pathfinders, the toxics, arsenic, mercury, thallium, and so on, but also gold. And it's a fairly new innovation, because about 15 years or so, it finally became possible for the assay labs to detect parts per trillion in water. And so these guys were amongst the first to figure out how to do this properly so that you can get reliable estimates. And they've been applying it for the last decade in Nevada, building a map which they say covers about a third of the prospective basin areas that are shallow enough to have a deposit that's accessible. So I like this. You're literally finding targets that are not visible from conventional methods in an area that probably has 1 billion ounces left to be found. I mean, the northern Nevada is one of the richest gold fields
I
in the
think,
world.
John, to put that into context of this map here does a really good job of on their website. As you can see, all of these locations are where the known mines are, and you can see them in these areas. And then you see these big, large areas that there's nothing really in them. They have a similar kind of rock there. So this is highly potential rock here that is covered up, that makes it challenging to make those discoveries. And as John said, like we use in diamonds, we use sort of the diamond indicator minerals that are left along the grounds as crumbs to search our way back to the source. This is what they're doing with groundwater. And what really makes it exciting for me, John, for a couple other reasons, is that Andre Goumond, who runs Virginia Gold, has always stressed something to me when he's done presentations. He says that I want to be the lowest cost discoverer. So what that's always said to me is he understands the importance of keeping those costs down. And that's why I am really excited to bring, not only do they have a new unique method, but ultimately that method could bring costs down dramatically to explore this highly prospective ground.
Now, of course, what you mean by saying bringing the cost down, it's the cost per area explored. Because these guys are able to cover very large areas, they can discard 95% of the ground and say that there's nothing here, there's no smell, there's no scent in the groundwater, there's no point looking at it. And being able to eliminate areas as unprospective using an exploration tool, that's a really big thing. I mean, if you're in an area like, say the Sierra Nevada, which is just a big, giant granite tombstone pluton, the edges, the sides of which, of course, interesting for mother lode type deposits, intruding the various older rocks there. But you can look at this stuff and say, yes, this is a wasteland. There's absolutely nothing here. Doesn't take much of a exploration effort to do that. But in Nevada, where you have cover, like gravels that are transported or overburden or anything like that, to be able to eliminate the bedrock below through an exploration tool and then home in on those portions that are prospective, that's a huge cost saving. And of course, you need to know that there are elephants to be found in Nevada. And there is this sort of perception that, well, Newmont and Barrick have it all. Even if they haven't found everything, it's just a matter of time where on the ground they already own. They just do some more brownfields exploration and they will find it. But I think what NGE has done is it's created a tool to open up all of the basin areas of northern Nevada for a fresh round of exploration. And I wouldn't be surprised if in 2 to 3 years we have a new gold rush in Nevada, because Nevada's very complex geology. And if it's not sticking out of the ground, showing you, hey, start drilling here, it's tough to find stuff. But give them a new tool to start looking in these various areas. And this is like a fantastic for juniors.
Well, you know, John, you've brought up a couple of really important points there to me. You touched on, you know, doing exploration as a scientific method and doing it in a sound way, and which is, I think, I'm an avid explorationist. I think that's a really important part of the mining business that's undercovered, and it's why I like talking to you, John. And you think in a scientific fashion, but then you also brought up the ability to rinse and repeat with this process. That if they can prove it up in one area, and they sort of now, and it's a proprietary method too. So I wanted to delve into those topics a little bit more, John. The exploration, the point of how important exploration is to science, you know, using sound science and their chances to rinse and repeat with this method.
Yeah, that's what I like about this story. I mean, a lot of exploration plays, somebody say options or stakes some ground somewhere, and they've got a vision of we think there's a deposit here to be found, and they focus all their effort on it, and maybe they find it, maybe they find something that looks like it, and maybe they find nothing at all. In this case here, they can repeat this over and over and over again. It's the story of the company is really the method, not so much the projects. They've got three that they're quite excited about right now: Grass Valley South, and the Kelly Basin area projects. And these now are at the level where they need some more serious exploration work. It is nice that they raised $1.7 million in the last few weeks, so they have some fuel in the tank. Once they get this thing going, once they get a discovery going, there'll be no end of these, normally I condemn them, lifestyle juniors, but I don't mind lifestyle juniors when the management is willing to raise the money and farm into a project that actually has a lot of sense. So this company could end up being like what the prospect generator type of company, where all kinds of other juniors are harnessed to farm in. And it's very different from your usual type of thing. For example, a competitor is Renaissance Gold in Nevada. And what these guys do is they stake all these sort of outcrops and things in Nevada, maybe do a little bit of work on it, but then try to farm them out to others. But these are basically reject projects that management can't see anything exciting enough themselves to explore. And so they hand it off to some other company that has no capability of even finding a project on its own. And then those guys, spend money and usually don't come up with anything interesting. In this case here, any groundwater anomaly that gets farmed out to somebody has a chance of being the next Cortez Hills. So every little sort of junior that's just going to do the fundraising and the promotion while, say, NGE does the program design and execution has a legitimate shot of coming up with a prize. And until you do the work, you don't know that there is nothing there. And a lot of prospects, you can look at it and say, well, there's nothing there until you find something. And that's a big difference between this story and other types of exploration stories.
John, and you picked up on something there that we talked about earlier prior to the show that it was really interesting to me, John. You were talking to me about how when you're looking at these companies, you want to see some kind of hook, that a scientific hook that piques your interest, and get into that a little bit for my audience. I think that's really important for investors to look at when they're looking at a company and doing their research.
Yeah, well, it really becomes apparent to me how important it is to do this when we do this zombie type research, and we look at the sort of general description, we look at the news releases, and we try and figure out what is the hook here? What makes this a compelling story? Is there some obstacle that they are fighting against? Is there some new insight that they have? So for me to get interested in an exploration story as opposed to an optionality play, I want to hear what management thinks is going on this project that is different from what others who may have looked at the project have thought. And I want to see the argument. I want to see what the bet is. I want them to spell out their hypothesis so that when the drill results come in, I know what counts as good results and what counts as bad results. And I think that's a new thing that's going to become a lot more prevalent, is that companies are going to have to put forth all the cartoons and so on in their presentations, showing all the anomalies, the targets, the hypothesis as to where they think the target is, and how much money it's going to cost to kill this project, to make or break it. And that means the websites of the companies become far more important. And Nevada Exploration Inc. is really good at doing this. Wade Hodges is obsessed with making completely clear to his audiences what he thinks is going on in one of his projects.
I was just, as you were saying that, John, about the cartoons and the models, I was just pulling up another page on their website, and they actually have a pretty good model right here that I'm playing around with my cursor. It shows the cover there and how to look, how they're kind of, I guess it's from a presentation they were doing somewhere. But yeah, I agree with you, John. These companies, they have to get better at telling their stories to a wide. I mean, they have so many tools nowadays. I remember when I was first getting into the business, John, and if we wanted to do a 3D model of a cross section, so we wanted to put a series of cross sections together so we could get a three-dimensional model, we had plastic that we could see through, and we'd like draw the cross section on the plastic and then put a series of the plastics together, and we could sort of start seeing a 3D model. That's how rudimentary it is. Now that it's all digitized, you can come up with these great models, and they have the tools to do it, and they have the smarts to do it, and Nevada Exploration has all that. John, I wanted to touch on a couple of one other company, but let's get into our zombies now. The other company is Peregrine Diamonds. Why don't we talk about them after the zombies? Because with Peregrine, again, we can bring up some interesting points about scientific methods and exploration and some of these other things. So why don't we get on to the zombies?
Yes, and our zombie letter for episode 4 is the letter O, and we've decided to be merciful on our watchers with this episode. There are only 5 companies that we have to investigate today.
Okay, and what I'm doing, John, is I'm just getting logged in here so that everybody can see me going through the, I go to the research tools. I'm expanding all the parameters. I'm looking for, in this first batch here, I'm looking for include only listed and publicly traded companies. Then we go down to the price range. We want less than 10 cents. Working capital. We want them to be on their knees as real zombie companies. So on fumes, no more than 199,000 in cash. I think you're watching me, John. I've got it all right so far, right?
Yep.
And now I go, and this is an important part too. You click off all of these. Now, before I go into this, John, earlier yesterday, a couple of friends of mine and I were talking, and you and I had talked a few days ago about how we can do other shows than the zombie shows in the future, where we can go and look at various different parameters here that John has filtered available. Oh yeah, and by the way, John, before we close off, we're going to have to look in the zombie rescue targets yes category, see if there's any brief chats about that before we close off. But there's a wide range of filters that we could use here, and it gets very exciting. So that's something I really want to delve into more in the future, John. But now that I've got everything done here, I'll submit the search. And probably have to get to the O's. We're on the O's, John? Why don't you take it over and start talking about some of the O's while I find it on the screen here?
Yeah, okay. So our first company is Omanika Mining and Metals. Has a working capital deficit of about $232,000, about 74 million issued, 83 million shares fully diluted. Tim Termundy's the CEO, Chuck Downey, the president, Tom McNeil, the chair. It's the Eagle Plains Group, basically with Tom McNeil as a big part of it. And insiders show as owning 67% of the stock. So in terms of structure, this company has very good structure. And if we actually go into the profile of the company, we'll find that the structure is largely owned by 49 North, which is a publicly listed company. It's Tom McNeil's mutual fund for, investing in various resource and energy deals. And when you look at the sort of longer term chart, this thing has a history of a number of false alarm spikes. Came public in 2011, was spun out from the Copper Canyon takeover. Copper Canyon itself was spun out of Eagle Plains because it had the Copper Canyon deposit near Galore Creek. Nova Gold absorbed it. And this company was started off as a shell with some of the junkier Eagle Plains properties, most of which I think they've farmed out 100% to other juniors. And this project, Tom McNeil vended it in for about 60 million shares and a $5.5 million debenture, which is still outstanding until 2018. And so the question is, what is the story behind the company? No money. It's got good structure. It's got good people. What is the story? And are you set up? I see you are set up.
I'm on Omanika. I've got through to the page, and I'm on the. I'm at the profile. I was, as you were speaking there, John, I was sort of highlighting these false starts that you were talking about, and they've been kind of quiet lately. But as you said, working capital just minus 232. That doesn't usually worry me too much. I think that they can figure that out pretty quickly. 67% insider stake. Wow, that's and right off the bat, when you mention guys like Tim Terramunde, he's been around a long time, and they're always involved with real stuff. That's what I like to hear. I've got down to this bigger chart here, John, and it sort of shows that as gold's been getting better, it's been starting to want to drift upwards a bit. Still stays under that 10 cents, so it stays in our window of the zombies here.
And they did do a small financing in April. So maybe it doesn't even qualify because the zombie position, financial position, was March 31st, and they probably didn't get the 150 grand. Well, it's only 150 grand that they raised, so they probably still qualify as zombie. They need to raise
ultimately, it comes down to, are they a zombie when we run the filter on the day we run the filter, right, John? They can't. Here's the structure I'm down to now.
Yeah, and you see 45 million shares owned by 49 North. Tim owns 1.8 million. Tom McNeil doesn't own very much, but he owns it indirectly through the 49 North. And then there's probably, because this thing's never undergone a distribution, probably all friends and relatives probably own a bunch of this stock too. So this thing...
Says that Nedlitsky's involved somehow.
Yeah, he was on the advisory board.
Oh, okay. Got it. So here's your valuation model.
Yeah, and that thing's not correct there. That project should be in the infill drilling stage, which is kind of funny because I thought I fixed that the other day.
So it would be, the blue dot would be right where my cursor is right now, right?
That's right, yeah.
Now, is the dream targets here are still the same. It's just that should be over here.
Yes.
So right now the market's saying that they're infill drilling on a dream target of 100 million. Is there reason to believe that there might be more than that kind of a dream target here, John?
This is an example of a company where you can say, no, this is not going to be $1 billion home run. This thing is going to be, the outcome's potentially worth $100 million. And what we should probably do is go to the company's website.
Okay.
There, what got vended in a few years ago that Tom McNeil had privately rustled up is the Wing Dam project in the Caribou district of British Columbia. And the story here is an interesting story, and it has that kind of hook which makes you think, this could be a winner for the company. During the 1880s, the placer miners recognized that there was a deep canyon in Lightning Creek that was filled with gravel, and at the bottom of which was a pay channel about 2 meters thick, 15 meters wide, and running about 2.5 kilometers. And they've worked many times in the last 140 years to try and get at this pay channel, which has, the estimates are there's about 100,000 to 200,000 ounces of placer gold within this paleo channel. The problem they encountered is all the garbage that's on top of it, unconsolidated gravels, clays, and all this stuff, it's all water saturated. And anytime they got near it, they even drove an adit down to it, they would just have horrible water problems. And it's, tens of millions of dollars have been sunk into trying to get at this pay channel, which is just within reach. And, if there's, if 100,000 ounces means there's maybe $100 to $200 million or $300 million worth of gold there. So on a net present value basis, you can already tell $100 million outcome is the best that this can be. But what Tom McNeil brought to the story was, he's from Saskatoon. The McNeil
By the
family
way,
is
John, as you're talking about that, sorry to interrupt, I've gone to their website and I've actually gone to the Windjam Gold Project. I'm on their maps page and they actually show a little bit of
there you can see it right there, that sort of canyon. The Lightning Creek still flows on top of it. And they have a permit for it, but what they probably need is $20 million to pursue their plan and to continue. What interested Tom in this project was the experience that his brother Ken McNeil had with using freeze technology for recovering the bulk sample at the Star Project for Shore Gold in the Fort de la Corne district. And there you have this problem too, is you have a couple 100 meters of unconsolidated overburden sitting on these pancake-like kimberlites that erupted into a marine environment, and you have a big water flow problem. So they used freeze technology there, and of course they also use freeze technology to mine the high-grade uranium deposits in the Athabasca Basin, where they are at the unconformity and where you have tremendous water flow in the sandstone that will flood everything unless you freeze it.
So is that the idea, John? If successful, you'd go with a shaft and then you'd go underneath it and freeze what's over top of it and then just bring that down and haul it out?
That's right. You literally just come in from the side there and freeze your way in and haul it out and follow the pay channel. It's only 2 meters high, 15 meters across, and you just work your way along the whole pay channel. And they've done a test. The company has a video there on the home page, which is about 7 minutes, and they show all the stuff, how they've frozen the stuff and want to get at it. Now this is a story where capital is the issue. How do you raise $20 million for a 6-cent stock? And they also have a problem in that.
Hold on, John. Why do they need 20 million? Is it they got to sink that shaft to test this?
No, it's for the whole, the operating capital for the equipment and so on to make this all happen. And their problem is they put together what was sort of similar to a PEA. They kind of call it a scoping study. They filed a technical report. It's still on CDART, but the BC Securities Commission forced them to retract it because they do not have an inferred resource. You cannot publish an economic study without having an inferred resource. And the problem with placer deposits, it's extremely difficult to come up with a resource estimate. You have to kind of just guess, sample it here and there and guess that, yes, this volume of gravel is going to yield so much gold.
If any of our viewers, John, have watched the show, that Gold Rush show, it's very similar to that. That's what those guys are digging at. And sometimes they can go through some really good pay zones and sometimes some not so good pay zones. So trying to drill that off and prove that at depth is a little challenging. Doesn't mean there's not a lot of gold there.
they should make a show out of it, like those Alaska miner shows and all that, and
Yeah.
maybe make more money on the production royalties of the show. That way there'll be a consolation prize, even if they do not find as much gold as they think is there. Anyways, the story intrigues me. The question is, can they attract perhaps some sort of private equity financing or a gold streaming deal to come up with the capex without inflicting further dilution onto the company? And obviously the market's saying, yeah, good luck with that.
Well, we're coming out of a bear market, and we're just starting a new gold bull market, John. And I'm looking ahead and trying to say, okay, well, what projects are the next sort of? It seems like a lot of stock pickers like ourselves have kind of hunkered down and found some good ones, and now everybody's out in the field, and we'll see which ones come back with the goods and which ones don't. But what's the next step, right? In the grand scheme of things, I think that finding good gold is not easy, and people are going to start looking for these kind of stories as we move forward in the bull market. I'm an easy yes on this one, John, for them to become a rescue mission. I think that they are the kind of company that anytime in the next 3 to 6 months, maybe a year, we could all of a sudden wake up, they've got a new market, and they've got funding to go and test their theory. Because how many things in a place like this Wing Dam project are there that have realistic potential? It's like we were talking earlier, John, about we hear this stat of 1,000 to 1. You find 1,000 targets, you find one mine. Well, first of all, I don't really want people that can only find one out of 1,000 to be the ones looking for my targets. But what we have to get better at is filtering out the noise and try to find what has real stories. And this sounds like something that could get funded as we get further into a bull market for gold.
Yeah, I think so. I agree. This definitely deserves to be rescued. It's got good structure. It's got good people. It's got an interesting project. It's not really an optionality on the gold price. It's not really an exploration play. I think they're pretty confident. I mean, everything else in Lightning Creek that was accessible was stripped out and produced plenty of gold. And they sampled a portion of this pay channel and come up with an awful lot of ounces in the little segment that they did sample. So this is really almost a technology innovation problem where they're bringing freeze technology into the equation, which the old timers, the previous operators, they never had that available as technology, where you literally freeze this water-soaked debris and then mine it as if it's hard rock. I mean, it's almost the opposite of what you want from mining, where you want the stuff to be as soft as possible to reduce your energy costs. Here, they actually need to make it hard enough so that they can properly mine it without everything whooshing all over the mining equipment.
Got it. Okay, so we got the number one on the list today was a thumbs up from both of us. Enthusiastic thumbs up. I like the structure story. I like the science story. I like the concept. I like where it is. So we got one there. Well, the next one I've got, John, is Open Gold Corp.
Yeah, and I think I don't have that one. I think you may have.
What did I forget?
Not clicked something when you were setting it up.
Let me see here. Let me do it. Okay, so I did only public, less than a dime, less than 1 million. Oh, is that? Do they have two? Oh no, we don't want less than 1 million. They're really broke.
Okay, yeah, that's the difference. Yeah, the next one should be Ore Finders.
Okay, all right. So you go ahead and start talking about Ore Finders, and I'll find it, John.
So again, you look at the chart for Ore Finders, and it comes public in sort of 2013, just in time for to get cremated by the big Goldman Sachs knockdown of gold, where they dropped it from $1,600 down to $1,300. I did have it as a bottom fish for a while, this is again a story in Ontario, the Murado project, which was brought public. It's a Jeff Becker company. He's one of these guys who's been around a long time and has a number of these obscure type of companies, sort of almost like a Pat Sheridan type. And they brought Bill Yeomans in there to rethink this whole thing, to find the missing shear structures, deal with a stockpile of ore left over. These are these smaller operating mines in former operating mines in Ontario. And the story here is always like, did we really find all the chutes? Is there stuff that we can pursue at depth? Can we come up with high-grade gold? So the project is in that category, but it really doesn't seem like they've had much success attracting the attention of the market since they came public in 2013.
They've got 56 million shares out, fully diluted. Insider stake is 38%, so they're vested. Now let's do one of my favorite indicators, which is to go to their website, see if anybody's home. Okay.
It looks like they have new management. Two stewards, an Alexander Stewart and a actually these are the new CE. Oh no, I'm looking at no. Yeah, these people joined recently. They're in charge of something called XMet, which also looks like a zombie fish if we ever a zombie company if we ever get into the X's.
It looks like this is a reasonably is Murado their flagship?
That's their flagship.
Okay, so it looks like they've got their senior management. Stevens, this must be an updated presentation. I'm scrolling through on their page now, John. So Murado, here's their here's some of the facts: 2,400 acres, 12 mineral claims. They own 100% of it. Newly upgraded road with all-season access. They completed a 43-101 resource based on 40 holes. There's a geology story.
I don't like it when they don't put a date on their presentation.
Yeah, I know. So you don't.
And they don't seem to have any chart or anything in the presentation. You know, when you put together when you put together a presentation, there's a number of things that you need to include. They have nothing on structure, how many shares issued or fully diluted. So it looks like the bunch of geos have put this together who have zero market savvy, which kind of makes sense.
Which isn't, you know, sometimes that's why I like these things, John. Maybe they just need a little help telling how to tell a story.
Of course, look who's the CEO, Stephen Stewart, experience in the finance market and all that, and the chairman, another Stewart, Alex Stewart, a lawyer. I mean, these guys should know. And by the way, it looks like Bill Yeomans is not part of the team anymore. So I think there was some sort of purge there. This company is undergoing a transformation. These are people here who I don't really recognize. So one would have to do some homework to find out, okay, what went wrong with the previous group that was in charge? Is there a new vision here? How does it differ from the vision in the past?
Yeah, they also have something in, well, we could call Stephen Stewart at, he seems to be the dude to talk to.
Yeah.
416-644-1571, ore finders, resources. So somebody's home at least. Let's see what how.
You know, and when you look at the short-term chart here, it looks like in June it popped out and somebody's been accumulating the stock.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the.
It looks like they did a financing that just got approved. 3 million.
I like to go to the. I like to go to the profile, John. I can see everything a little bit better. So there we go. I'm on the profile now. Yeah, I see what you mean. There was accumulation right here, John. It looks like probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 4 or 5 million shares. One day they traded, looks like close to about 1.75 million for a sleepy little trader that wasn't doing anything before that.
And this is strange. I'm looking at the TSX Venture notice of the financing, and it's like published in July 2016, but it says here this financing was announced July 8th, 2015. So they've taken an entire year to do these 3 million units at a nickel, and it went to one placee. It's not an insider, otherwise it would have had to declare, and it's obviously not a broker, or that would have had to be declared. So this is kind of interesting. Be interesting to know who the big shareholder is that has bought him or herself a 4.5 million equivalent stake in this company.
Well, I think I might have read the chart wrong too, John. This was 15 million crossed one day. It looked like they had a big trading day one day.
No, what you're looking at there, that's a weekly chart. When they're really long term, I have to do them as weekly chart. But yeah, that's that cluster there where you see several days of whatever 2 million, 1.5 million share days.
So they got no money. Claude Boucher, never heard of him.
And here's something. Obviously, this I must have been in a bad mood about this company. It says here, Real Exploration Junior, but has incompetent administrators who cannot successfully file an AGM circular on SEDAR. And I think they have filed one, but it was for a year ago, and they never did file one for this year. And that just burns me when these companies cannot file the information circular on SEDAR, because that's where you find out how many shares they own, who the directors are, and then the executives, how much they're being paid. So it's always a bad sign when the annual meeting circular is not available on SEDAR.
You know, John, this is something that I really like to look at, and I don't think that people really understand like how cool this chart is. Here's your project valuation chart again, John.
Mm-hmm.
And what John's done here is, so here's if the trajectory at the various different stages, grassroots drilling, target drilling, metallurgy, all the stages of exploration. Here's where the trajectory of the valuation should be if it's $100 million dream target. Here's if it's a 500 million. Here's a 2 billion. This is a really nice monster, okay? Well, right now they're at the infill drilling stage, and they're being valued as if they have maybe a $50 million outcome potential. So I these days, John, I find myself looking at this and really trying to look and see, okay, well, you know, this actually gives me some reason to want to look at it, because they have done a resource calculation of some sort on this. You know, they're really cheaply valued here relative to if they have anything.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards a maybe on this one. There's too many unanswered questions, like why the change in management, what's going on, why the presentation that doesn't have a date on it. It's you know, the grade of this stuff, 1.29 grams per ton, is not good enough for underground mining.
No, that's for sure. That's why they are being valued like that. But nonetheless, John, I think that's a great way to put them. They have an asset here. It looks like some kind of asset. And so let's see if they're going to do anything with this company now. Doesn't really give us the signs that they are, but there are some hints that they are, such as the volume there and someone taking a position, and sounds like there's been some sort of a shakeup at the board. So let's put them in the maybe and see what they do over the next little while. I like that call.
All right, you're a maybe too?
Yep.
Okay.
Which is the next one you've got, John? Orestone?
Orestone, yes.
Okay. So Orestone has 41 million fully diluted, not a lot. That's not bad. $108,000 in cash, only 3.13% share insider percentage, which is something that John does not like to see. I know that. Really flatline in stock for quite some time now. And really in the recent, hasn't really shown much recently either.
Now here, when you look at the longer term chart you have there, you see all the dollar signs, periodic financings that they did. And then you see that gap. That's a rollback that's happened. So they did a rollback, a 4-for-1, you know, it came out of like Zombieland pricing, and then they raised $2 million at 10 cents. And what was interesting about that financing, it was a whole bunch of different brokerage firms, and the brokers themselves took pieces of that financing. But it looks like even at 10 cents, they managed to lose money. And this has been one of the reasons things have gotten so bad in this sector for financing the juniors, because the brokers thought they were all clever doing all these 5 and 10 cent financings in the last 5 years. And they managed to lose money even on those financings because there was no aftermarket for any of these companies. In this case, they were obsessed with this Captain copper gold porphyry prospect in British Columbia. You know, the porphyry system is there. It is mineralized, but you get numbers in like 0.05% copper and some very low gold value. So it's just a geochemical anomaly. And a lot of money has gone into this project, and those poor brokers who put up all that money never got a chance. And you can see
so they're still buried in the deal, I guess. And I see a name from your past there, John. Andrew Muir is the CFO.
Yeah, I guess he must be just helping out David Hotman, whom he knows very well. David Hotman used to be, a big IR force back in the early days of in the 90s. Can't remember the name of the company. It's funny. One of them ended up being is now owned and operated by Timmins Gold. It was a gold project, the Francisco Gold Project in Mexico. But Hotman's kind of like the Vancouver style promoter. Knows a lot of people, has his network, but the couple of companies where he became CEO in the last while have not really worked out. The key guy here is supposed to be Gary Nordin, who's retired, and he was part of those different companies, that whole group that David Hotman was IR for, and whether they're going to find a project for this company. But really, we should go into the profile and see what Hotman himself owns.
Oh, okay. I went to their website, but I'll go into their profile now.
He owns 778,000 shares. That's probably not enough to make anybody care. You can see all the brokers down there who at one time cared.
There's your reverse split, 4-for-1.
And this thing is pretty much a shell, that Captain project. You can see the project that the company's valued at less than $1 million. The project, it's basically it doesn't deserve to be in that discovery delineation category anymore. It's back to grassroots.
Their exploration geologist almost owns as much as Hotman.
Yeah,
Gary Nordin.
If he still owns that.
Yeah, that was as of 2011. Oh yeah, look at all the brokers. That was in the days when they used to have to declare when they were taking a position in a private placement. Tom Seltzer.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So they're all buried in that.
Lori Pinkowski is probably Carrie's spouse of Carrie Pinkowski.
Wow, they're all buried in that baby.
Barb Langer, probably Rick Langer's wife.
Without a project, John, the best I can do for this one is put him in the maybe category. Being a shell with real people involved, it kind of makes me believe that someday they're going to use this for something. But until I see what, or even a sign that they might be putting something in it, I have a hard time thinking it's savable.
We've got somebody in there who's got some experience with the market. Whether he has any stroke anymore is uncertain. We don't see any projects in there. We don't know what they can do to come up with a good project. They've got no money left. The structure is bad. I think this thing's probably going to be rolled back again and
Ooh.
maybe recycled as a shell.
Well, then
That's not what we're looking for in zombie rescue targets. My vote is that this one is a no.
Okay, so well, we'll defer to no then.
No, but if you want to be a maybe, we would classify you as a maybe, and then they'll be in the maybe category.
Yeah, put them in. I think maybe's fair, because if they put, I want to watch whether it's a project going in or a rollback. If there's any sniff of a rollback, I would kick them back to the nose.
All right.
So, but not knowing those variables, I can give them a maybe at this time. ORS is their symbol. Oh, we forgot to be using our. Oh, they can see it on the screen. We don't have to worry about the symbols as much. So, Orstone there. Next one up, John. I've got Orex. Is that the same as you?
Yep, that's the next one.
Okay. Orex has 180 million fully diluted. Woo. 14% insider ownership, little bit of cash. You recognize any of those names, John?
Yeah, and those names are actually old. I just updated it, and it'll show up tonight. Marcel Foscher is the new CEO of this company. This is actually an old company. I think went public in 1988 on the Montreal Exchange. When they shut that down and folded it into the CDNX in 2001, it got its TSX Venture listing, and they've done no rollbacks during this entire 20 years that have gone by. So the stock's probably quite wildly held. The project is the Goldboro project. It is this nuggety high-grade gold system in Nova Scotia. They've spent, probably $25 million. Different partners have looked at it. All of them have sort of shaken their heads. They produced a PEA, I think, what was it, not too long ago. Pretty pathetic, $107 million NPV at $1,250 gold, 11-year mine life, but producing only 21,000 ounces per year. This is typical of these Atlantic Canada gold projects. Atlantic Canada just doesn't have any good gold systems. There are all these small-scale operations. I'm not a big fan of small-scale gold mines. That's more for us, like Brent Cook likes to say, people who like yellow dump trucks. They want to be miners, and so they go and take on these small projects and
well, you know, the truth be told about those guys, they're actually not really interested in those yellow trucks. They're interested in telling the story that one day they might have something that's flowing cash, and that actually might not just be swapping dollars for dollars or dollars for dimes. And I think it's more about storytelling than, but yeah, I'm with you on those small operations, John. It's just too tough.
There's too many management turnovers with this company too. So I think it's probably an orphan.
With 180 million, John, it's an orphan I don't want to take on at this time. If the project was so compelling, I could overlook the 180 million, but that looks like a rollback in the waiting. But like you said, they don't roll anything back. So now to put it into a maybe, they got to have a really significant project, not a little operation in Eastern Canada.
Yeah, I'm just checking to see if they have a presentation. Oh, their presentation is from December 2011. So this is
they're striking out all over the place. Oh, I got an easy no for me on that one.
Yeah, this is a no. It's not worth the bother.
Next one is Oro Nova. You got Oro Nova, John? That's our last one.
That's the next one and the last one.
This one's interesting. Only 38 million shares out. They're deficient by 56 grand. 0 insider ownership. very patchy trader. Oh my God, John, this thing for full going back to, they haven't had a market since 2011.
It's got a history of lots of rollbacks.
Wow.
You know, with only 21.5 million shares out, that's not much. But it looks like the only project they have is this Spray Creek thing that they picked up in the Molly days, and whatever, wasted enough money on it so they didn't have to drop it for lack of assessment work.
When there's no website icon, does that mean they don't have a website?
Well, it just might mean I didn't pick it up, but what I do then is I go to CDAR and click on a recent news release. Oh God, last news release was in 2015.
Oh my.
And I check to see if the news release has a website in it, which it
I don't
should.
think they have one, John. I just did a Google search for Oro Nova resources and it gives me a CDAR as the only website. Or LinkedIn. I can go to the guy's LinkedIn. I don't think they have a website, John.
Yeah, they don't. The news release is just a very simple thing. They're on Burrard Street in Vancouver. Now,
that one's an that one looks pretty easy, John. No one home, no audience. They don't want to make any news. Really, it's not even much to consider there.
Yeah, I think it's been abandoned by everybody.
Yep.
There's no reason to rescue this zombie. There's no redeeming virtue to it. It doesn't look like anybody's stuck with a big pile of stock so that they might have incentive to rebuild the company.
You know, and yet that's something that it's easy to see too, John. Like we came across one that I just met with management. Tarku was one of our first shows, the letter T. And it was one that we gave the thumbs up to. And, you know, these guys are eager. They're sharp guys. They've been involved with real projects before. They've got a real project now. It's very early stages, but there is a compelling story there that I will get more interested as I see more sampling, because I can see where the structures are that there should be. If there's a source of where there's boulders that are found in the area came from, that could be one source, or two sources. And so it's really easy to see when we have these zombies, when somebody's home and when somebody's not. And if they're not home, if nobody's home, we can't save them for sure, John.
Yeah.
So I'm going to thumbs down that Oro Nova resources, ONV.
Oh, and look at this. In June of last year, they did 4 million units at a nickel with a 5-year warrant at a nickel.
Great. There's your
but it's amongst 10 placees. So what? They all have 400,000 units of this thing with a 5-year warrant. If I saw, say, one person go in there and put up 200 grand and then has, you know, the right to buy another 4 million shares, well, then I say, then there's somebody here who cares. But this was probably just, you know, pass the hat around to raise some money to pay the bills while we pray that a miracle happens. So
I think
this one's an easy no. There's just no reason to care.
Okay, John. So now that's a wrap on the O's for today. To
recap, Amanika was a unanimous yes by both of us. So that's a zombie rescue target. Ore Finders was a maybe by both of us, so that makes it a maybe. Orestone, you were a maybe, I was a no, so that becomes a maybe. Orex, both of us said no, and Oronova, both of us said no. So two that we can let die and disappear, 2 that, you know, maybe it's on our watch list, and 1 that deserves to be rescued.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do, before we get into talking a little bit about Peregrine, John, why don't we just quickly scroll through, because you've done the work here for everybody. Here's another one of the filters that you can go build, that John's built for you in his Kaiser search engine online. is down here. You go to the bottom, zombie rescue targets, yes. Maybe just we'll riff on this for a minute or two, John, and see if there's any quick updates that we may have on the list here.
All right. Click that.
Oh, search. Now I got to hit the search. Oh, no, then I get rid of everything else. I don't need any of these other things. Okay, submit search.
Yeah, so Adamar is still tracking sideways. They got those 6 cents warrants that expire July 20th.
Okay.
Stock's not going.
Finlay.
Hmm?
Finlay. What was their? They're the nickel.
Finlay has that Silver Hope project.
Oh yeah.
The problem with this company, it's a bunch of old timers, and the CEO, who's apparently in his 50s, has a full-time job working for a silver producer. So this company probably needs a rollback and needs some fresh blood in there. I think the project's quite interesting what they have there. So
I'm leaning to still keep it in the S's for a while, John, because I want if the project wasn't of merit, I would be easily say let's kick them down to maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're okay with there. Lorion, what was the story with Lorion?
Oh yeah, that was that company. They're still trying with that project that they have. What they renamed the Ishkode project, the Old Sturgeon River project.
Right, yeah.
So I haven't had time to contact them yet.
Then the Rain Copper, they seem to be.
Of course, First Point in Fjordland, we talked about that in the last episode.
Oh, here's that Tarku. Yeah, I met with Sylvain and Leberge just this week, John.
Mm-hmm.
And really good. They're the East Main mine. The structural structure that hosts the East Main mine goes through the northern part of their claim block, and then there's another structural trend that goes through the southern part of their claim block. That's almost like a big nose of a structure. It's those two spots that where the bend is on that big structure and where the one that hosts the East Main mine, they're going to do some sampling up in there on both of those spots. And so I'd like to see the results of those samples. And I'm almost ready to put these after meeting with the guys, John. They're a sharp group of guys, and they're definitely home, and they're trying to do something with this company. I'm ready to put them on my radar screen, especially because I want people to be aware to keep an eye on those sampling results. If they get some decent sampling results, they could have some good drill targets here.
And you are aware that there's overlap between the Tarku people and the Amanika, which we adopted for rescue today. I think Tom McNeil is a shareholder in Tarku, and Tim Termundi is part of it.
Oh, yeah, right. 34% insider ownership on that Tarku, John, only 22 million shares out. I like the sound of that one.
However, that does not include that financing at a nickel that they were trying to do.
Yes, I think
that's an update on whether that's done yet.
It sounds like it's pretty much done, and I remember asking them what it'll be fully diluted. It'll be about 28 million, 29 million fully diluted after that one that's closing.
Well, there'll probably be more if it was done if they did the full 750,000. That's 0.05.
Yeah, that's got to be.
That'll add 15 million shares.
So that's got to be close to
full warrant. That's 30 million. This thing pops up to
40.
50 million fully diluted. However, that makes the structure even better because nobody's going to give this company money unless they feel quite confident that there is a game plan that perhaps even goes beyond the project that the Chateau Fort project that they have in the East Main area.
Yeah. Okay. So Tri-Origin, they haven't done. We're still waiting on some more developments there. Now, the other thing I wanted to check out, John, is the before we close, why don't we close on that diamond news? You did a report. I saw it in the mail the other day. There was big news by Peregrine Diamonds. We were going to both. Well, we talked last week about last show about this, and you were going to write a report, which is what I have on the screen now. And we were also both going to attend their conference call on Tuesday. The conference call, why don't you put it into context, John? But it was a bit of a botched conference call there.
Yeah, no, it was quite frustrating because they gave themselves, several days to get it together. They put out the news, the PEA on the 7th of July, and they had the conference call in the morning of July 12th, Tuesday morning. And it went an hour long. It was very good presentation. Tom Paragudoff ran it, and everybody was then preparing for questions. And I hadn't even entered the queue yet because I like the analysts to ask questions first, and then I'll ask some any questions that they haven't already gotten answers for. And all of a sudden, the operator saying, are there any calls? Are there any questions? There appear to be no questions.
And I was in there, John, and I'm hitting star one. I did it like 3 times, and it wouldn't accept my my question.
Yeah, so I think management panicked and said, "Oh my gosh, nobody likes our project. Nobody even wants to ask questions. Maybe there's nobody even watching this. Maybe we've been talking to a non-existent audience." And so they wrapped it up right away, and the stock just tanked because all these people were watching. They expected this to be kind of the launch of the next phase of marketing, because they're going to have to raise some serious money to push this into the pre-feasibility stage. And poor Tom spent the whole day just fielding calls from people like, what was this BS about? I mean, I was there. I had questions.
Well, John, it's after the show, I went back and I looked at the trades per minute and everything. And what I was noticing was during a lot of the call, there was some drifting of the stock and a little bit of selling. But right at about the 54-minute mark of the presentation, when everybody realized that there wasn't going to, it didn't look like anyone had any questions or anything, it boom, the volume started picking up and every bid was hit there.
Yeah, so I did get in touch with Tom later in that day, and got answers for questions and so on. But the stock chart is now broken. And whatever institutional, investment firm analysts were there, they're probably all sitting back now laughing at this mess that Eric Friedland has created for himself. And he kind of deserves this mess because he was on the call, with Tom and Herman Gruder, and why we haven't seen Eric. Eric has become the invisible Eric, the absent Eric. Why didn't he introduce this thing instead of just letting Tom do everything? And why didn't at the end they at least stall for time to make sure that there were truly no calls, or get people a chance to enter their star one thing? Why didn't he take the floor and start saying, how he's behind this company? I mean, he owns 21%. His brother owns 25%. Together, 46%. He just sat there, did nothing. And so people sort of wonder if his brother Robert would have been.
Well, and that brings up the second, this. I had some questions that I wanted to ask relating to the permits and their consulting and what work they've done, and not a lot on the actual numbers because the numbers look quite compelling. And I was really excited about the new efforts to present the brownfields potential of the project, John. But I think what it brought up when Eric didn't come up is that, it sort of brought the wounds of those two rights offerings that have been, pretty abusive to the shareholders over the last couple of years. And I think it kind of sent a message that, maybe they'd don't really care, or is there going to be another one of those rights offerings?
Well, I asked Tom point blank, are we going to have to endure another deep discounted rights offering? And he said emphatically, no, there will not be. However, he's just the CEO. He is not the 46% shareholder. And if Bay Street is giving its finger to the Friedlands on this one, what choice will they have except to, reach into their own pockets? However, they're getting close to 50%.
How can he confidently say that when, now that they dropped the ball on this PEA, which was a very significant milestone for the company, they delivered good numbers and everything. They deliver a story of brownfields exploration and a new look at these known kimberlites, and they just botched the conference call. And now what's the next big milestone? Well, that's economic evaluation. In order for them to get to do the fees, they need to do a whole lot more tighter drilling. They get away with inferred drilling on a PEA, but now that if you got to go in there and drill that a lot tighter, you're going to look at $20 million real quickly. Well, raising $20 million, it's like another rights offering. So, man, I don't know. I'm struggling to try to figure this whole thing out, to tell you the truth, John.
They did suggest that they could be in production by 2021, which is very, very aggressive. I mean, that's only 5 years from now. So they can't sit here and wait for market conditions to improve. So it's going to be really interesting how they turn this thing around without another huge round of dilution happening. One possibility is getting rid of the DO-27 pipe, on which over 50 million has been spent. The Rio Tinto and DDC, their Diavik operation is going to run out of ore in the not too distant future, and then that turns into a big reclamation liability. And DO-27 is no good as a standalone operation, but it could be mined and trucked over to that facility to keep that facility going. So one thing I've got my fingers crossed is that maybe they can sell the DO-27 interest to those guys and get a non-dilutionary financing for an asset that the market's giving the company zero value for at the moment.
That's a really good point, John. And I think that, because you and I are so seasoned in this game of diamonds, that sometimes time flies by on us. And, I remember when the DO-27 story was, well, the mines up there, Diavik and Ekati, are going to run out of ore to process, and sooner or later they're going to need this. Well, I 4 or 5 years slipped by, John, and sooner than later might be pretty close now.
Yes, so that's the best hope for getting a cash injection in the next little while that doesn't dilute the company. And if that were to happen, they would start doing geotechnical drilling on those bodies, because if you noticed in the presentation, they did not mine all of CH6 and all of CH7, and that was because they had to stick with 38 to 45 degree pit angles, and that caused them to leave 13% of the open pittable CH6 resource behind and 35% of the CH7 resource. And reading between the lines, the rock probably is competent enough to support steeper angles, but you need the technical data to get away with doing that in an economic study. So the whole thing was done in a way where there's lots of room for improvement, for numbers that are much better than what they came up with. So
that's why I'm in a conundrum as to how to cover this, John, because I really liked what I saw in the presentation. I wanted to ask a few questions, and but now that it was botched, now I'm kind of, well, they just botched this, and now they're having now they what other milestone can they really talk about? But maybe that brownfield exploration might be a cheap sort of way for them to maybe get some romance going, John. What do you think
Well,
about that?
yeah, that's what I argued, because they have not talked about exploration for a long time, and that was what really stood out in Tom's presentation was we have to revisit not just say CH1 and CH43 and that low grade large one that had the big stone in the core, but we need to revisit everything, and that makes sense because when they were finding all these things,
I finally got the presentation up there that we listened to, John, and I've got that map that shows where 6 and 7 are, and then the brownfields ones and the blue ones that are known kimberlites.
yeah, so remember, it was BHP who was funding this stuff, and although Peregrine was operating the program, it did understand BHP's mandate that we want big critical mass, we want large bodies with good grade, and they never got large bodies with good grade. So anything they found, they kind of like, okay, this is no good, and they moved on looking for that, magic Zhuaneng, which does not exist on this project.
And
So now,
I've sensed a sort of a shift in the mentality out there amongst the majors, John. I'm really getting a sense that we're starting to see more majors interested in profitable operations, because when they got shook down on that last commodity bear market with all their commodities getting punished, the diamond division, which was a small operation for the majors that are in it, were actually making money. And if you want to look at projects that could make money, what I've got is their parcel of diamonds there, John. And, not all diamond parcels are the same. And what they have here is you can see in these clear ones here where you can actually see right through the stone into the black background. Those are not going to have any problems cutting those whatsoever, though. And that encompasses a very large portion. In fact, John, they're clear white stones are a higher population than their grays and crummy stones. Now, usually in a mining operation, you'll see 3/4 or half of them, these crummy stones over here, the grays and the browns and the yucky colors and the horrible shapes. That's usually a much higher portion. This is a beautiful population here. You've got a nice population of some yellows, some nice color saturation there. In the whites, you've got a good population. So what I'm getting at, long story short, and that babbling there, is that these are the kind of things that if you can prove up one and get the economics the baseline economics looked after, now you want to start going back and looking at all these other ones that have been, I'm circling now in here.
yeah, the quality of the diamonds is very good. And 2 years ago at PDAC, Herman Gruder gave a presentation in the diamond technical session, and he presented evidence that this is underlying this part of South Baffin Island has amongst the coldest geotherms that he's ever seen. And while he did not have data for the Siberian fields, I think those ones also have very cold geotherms. So revisiting some of these pipes that were diamondiferous and checking them again, maybe the quality is there. Maybe the high, 2.5 carats per ton grade isn't there, but as some of them are.
Don't forget either, John, that a lot of the work that they did when they were first poking holes into those kimberlites was with RC drill rigs that are smacking the crap out of those diamonds. So, whenever I find a field where this is the kind of a parcel that you're going to see, that is just about as good as it gets, John. The only parcel that you'll see any better than this is when you look at Victor. And at Victor, almost 80% will either be these clear stones or these whitish stones, and very little, none of these gray stones, and the great shapes and everything. I mean, the run of mine parcel from Victor is incredible. But what this tells you is when you get these kind of parcels is that you're in a cluster of kimberlites where you've got that exceptional kind of quality. And you want to understand everything you can about all those kimberlites, as far as I'm concerned.
Another thing to keep in mind is like CH7 is a multi-phased pipe. CH6 is not. It appears to be one kimberlite eruption. But CH1, which was really promising in the beginning, it also appears to be multi-phased, and the sort of mini bulk sample they took from that, I think, ended up sampling one of the lower phases. So these pipes where they put in like one drill hole and came back with so-so results, maybe they hit that phase that is the lower grade.
Exactly. Just like what happened at DO27. They drilled DO27. Drill results look pretty darn good. Let's do a 10,000 ton bulk sample. Okay. Well, why don't we go in off the lobe here? That's kind of an offshoot of the pipe. Sure, it's easy to get at. Oops, didn't have any diamonds in it. They go back to DO27, the main part of the pipe, and there are diamonds there. So, that's where you got to be careful with diamonds. Like, I've got that slide, John, where it shows the image of the CH6. You could easily drill the wrong portion of that and walk away from it.
Yeah, and Renard's kind of like that too. That's a whole melange of intrusions that all come up in the same sort of footprint of the pipe.
So with those kind of quality of diamonds, John, and the numbers and everything, that's what's got me excited about the project. But then, how do you reconcile my other worry, which is how they're going to fund this thing? And look at these big stones, John. Perfect shapes. I mean, you're going to cut that in and your yield's going to be great. That thing's clear as could be. No inclusions.
Yeah, no. This is why I've liked this project. You look at things like Kennedy Diamonds with their Kennedy North project. The diamonds are terrible. The J pipe, for which Dominion Diamonds did a feasibility study, they're like $66 a carat. Those are garbage diamonds. The only reason it's economic is because they have a high grade. The world doesn't really want crappy diamonds.
You see this parcel over here, John, that I'm circling right now? That's what their whole parcel will look like. All crummy, $50 carat. None of this good stuff over here. This white clear and whites and nice shapes. It'll be small and ugly looking. So and that's what's underlying where these diamonds came from, John. And I'm a diamond exploration guy through to the core. And when I find these kind of fields, these are the ones that you really want to roll your sleeves up to understand. Now that it looks like they can, to cover the cost of putting it into production, it makes a go on 6 and 7, but they've got a lot of potential still wide open there. So I'm going to keep scratching my head and figuring out how I'm going to cover this, John.
Well, you can just cover it on the fundamentals. The fundamentals are outstanding. The true potential is understated. They get payback within 2 years. They're using these sort of soft prices right now. In fact, CH6, they revalued the 2014 carats. They had a 21% loss, all reflecting this dip in the last couple of years.
Oh, that's another thing. They actually, their timing of doing that valuation was about as bad as it could be in the last 4 or 5 years. But here's the other interesting thing, John. The chart on the diamonds prices on average is just like gold. So what we're seeing is that as gold gets stronger, diamonds are taking on a similar kind of trade, which makes sense. Chinese and Indians are buying more diamonds all the time. The rich are buying them. There's not a lot out there. This is a very compelling industry to be part of. What I'm getting at is I think that diamond prices are going to go a lot higher, so it's only going to help the economics.
Yep.
So there's our update. There's our show, John. Let's I want to go back and get to your main website because I always want to pitch your website. And the other thing I'm really liking about the way we're doing the shows now, John, is we're using the screen share, and everybody can see what your tools are all about, all the features that are available. And so I want to invite everybody that watches the show to go to John's site, be a member. It's the best money you'll spend in this industry learning about how to do your research. So on that note, John, thanks again for another awesome show.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. It's been a good show.
You bet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap things up, John. In about an hour or so, I'll shoot you off the time so you can get that updated on your website.
Will do.
Awesome. So I'm going to wrap everything up and say thank you very much for joining us today. Before closing, I always want to stress that this show is for information purposes only. It's important for you to do your research and speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decisions. I'm really stoked about this zombie show with having guests like John on and the show that we've put together. And I really like being able to use John's tools so that you can see the kind of research that you can do on his website. We have a lot of fun with this show, but there is a lot to learn, not just in the picks that we make, but the methods that we go about picking the stocks that we do. So I want to thank John, of course. Thanks again, John, and we'll do it. We got to do it again soon, right?
Yep. And maybe one more next week, and then I'm off to the Vancouver Sprott conference for a week, and then possibly off to Australia for a couple of weeks.
Okay, well, we'll try to fit you in wherever we can, John. It's always a great show, and I also always want to thank my sponsors. You can see them on the screen there: Nevada Exploration, Premier Gold Mines, Sirius Resources, West Red Lake Gold Mines, and Wolfton Resources. They make it possible for me to do the work that I do. So check them out. I'm really proud of the group that have put together, that have given me the opportunity to join my program, and they help make the work possible for you, the viewers. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.